I got Max. Okay. So the situation was that when I came in here, in my sickness, in my tempestuous ego, in my lunacy, I wanted to make a deal with God. God, give me a thin body. God, give me money. Got to have some money. Give me, because when I came in, my parents were already dead. My mother died in 76. My dad died in November of 78. And I came in February 2nd, 1979. Just a little while after my father's death is when I came in here. And I wanted to make a deal with God. And I didn't want to work in life. I didn't ever want to put forth any kind of effort at all whatsoever. I just wanted to be taken care of. And when I do my inventories, when I do my self examination, I come up with a fact that never seems to elude me now. I see it as plain as day. I was addicted to being taken care of, and that's not the world we live in. The world we live in is that God will take care of certain things that I cannot take care of. But unfortunately, like everybody else, I am going to have to work my butt off if I'm going to have any type of life whatsoever. And I didn't want to hear that. I want to hear that I'm special, that I'm this or I'm that. And I don't want to put forth the effort of having some kind of life. Was I lazy? Yeah, probably. Was I scared? Definitely. Was I misguided? Definitely. Was I crazy? Definitely. But what I can tell you is I didn't have my priorities in order, and I wanted to go quid pro quo with God. What does quid pro quo mean? It's a legal expression that comes from a Latin expression, and quid pro quo means you do this and I'll do that. I wanted to say to God, okay, God, you want me to work this program? All right, MFer, I'll work this program. You give me all the things I have on my list, the girl, the money, I want an Aston Martin, I want this, I want to look like God knows who. Then if you deliver to me all these wonderful things, if then I will think about working your program. And I hung on to that idea for quite some time. Let me tell you from firsthand information, that kind of attitude and those kind of behaviors, all they will get you is more Reese's peanut butter cups, more almond joy, and more M&Ms with peanuts. That was the only thing that those attitudes ever got me, was fatter and fatter and fatter and fatter. I had to persevere through the feelings of F it, I want to eat. I had to persevere through the feelings of I don't want to get a sponsor. I chose sponsors I could manipulate. I chose sponsors that were not strong people, and I didn't do myself any favors at all. Boy, have I learned a few thousand lessons in the 47 years since then. And today, I make OA the number one thing in my life without exception. People call me all the time and they say, well, I can't really do this. I've got little kids, or I can't do that. I've got parents I have to take care of, or I have a job that's really, very stressful. And I say, good luck. Because that kind of an attitude never worked for me. I had to work this program when I had a little kid. My kid was sick. My kid was always in and out of hospitals and in and out of doctor's offices because my kid was premature. And so her lungs were not fully developed. And even though I haven't spoken to my daughter in 15 years, her choice, not mine, I do imagine she still has asthma and she still has allergies and she still has all the horrible things that come along with having underdeveloped lungs. And I had a wife and I had a business that we owned, or, that we worked our butts off. And we were living 3,000 miles away from home. We were living in Oregon, which is 3,000 miles away from our home in Chicago. And we didn't have family support. It was just basically us. And the German Shepherds, they pitched in a little bit as much as they could, but there's only so much they can do. But the bottom line is that one of the things that I had to do in my life was I had to constantly reset my priorities. My priorities have to be this way: God/recovery, numero uno. Now, did you notice I didn't say abstinence is the most important thing in my life without exception? I did not say that, because for me, it's not. Now, I am not saying I'm not abstinent. I am not saying, don't come out of this meeting and say, Harlan says we don't have to be abstinent. I'm not saying that. But abstinence is not the most important thing in my life without exception. It's number two. And the reason it's number two is my relationship with God is dependent upon my abstinence, and my abstinence is dependent upon my relationship with God. But I am here to get a greater gift than just mere weight loss and just mere abstinence. So abstinence is not the most important thing in my life without exception. And through my inventories and through the revealing things that I do every day, 10 steps and fourth steps, things like that. What do they say? An unexamined life is not worth living. I agree with that. One of the things that is a beautiful part of this program is getting to know myself. And one of the more beautiful things is in getting to know myself, I get to know God a little bit. I don't know everything about God. I won't pretend I know everything about God. But I see God's hand in areas of my life that you cannot get to without His help and His direction. There are places in my life today that I am at that I could never have engineered on my own. I wouldn't even have the directions as to what it is or how to get there. And many of the things that God has done for me were things I didn't even know were broken or didn't even know I needed. And then all of a sudden, there they were. Now, that's all dependent upon abstinence. There's no question about that. But my relationship with God is something that I work on every single day. And there are days, I think today was one of those days. I was a little scared about how my voice was going to be, because even on Monday or Tuesday when I was at the doctor, I said to myself, I couldn't say it to anybody else really, I need my voice for Saturday. And I was scared. And here it is Saturday, and I'm doing okay so far. 10 minutes in, 12 minutes in, I'm still audible, I think, or you guys would be telling me you can't hear me. But I was really worried, and here I am. I'm ready to speak, and I can be understood. There are so many areas yet to be traveled. There are so many paths in life yet to be traveled. I can't wait to get to them. I hope I don't die. I hope I live until I die, but I hope I get to see certain things in my life. I hope I get to see Niagara Falls. I hope I get to see Liverpool. I hope I get to see certain things in my life. And if I get to see them, that'll be fantastic. If I don't get to see them, oh well, that's just the way it was supposed to be. And it's been an amazing journey. It's been an incredible journey. I can't tell you the times that people called me that I had to laugh my butt off, not at them, but because they were talking about themselves, but they were really talking about me. And there were some crazy calls along the years. There were some crazy calls through the years. So let's go to page 98. And the first thing we're going to be talking about in these first two paragraphs that we're going to be covering on page 98, beginning with it is not the matter of giving that is in question. We're going to be talking about a word that is not in either paragraph, and the word is priorities. The word is priorities. And without priorities, I really don't have a focus on recovery. Is it the food plan? Is it the spiritual life? Is it just going to meetings? Because you listen to OA people long enough and they'll tell you that meeting makers make it. And that's great. And that I go to meetings every single day. No question I do that. And that's all good. That's all fantastic. But is going to meetings the only answer? No, it's not. I remember when I came in, what was really, really, really big was I'm doing 90 and 90. That's fantastic. That means 90 meetings in 90 days. What happens on day 127? What happens on day 243? What happens on day 835? So 90 and 90 is fantastic. However, what do you do after the 90 days is up? Where are you going to go then? I was taught don't judge anybody in the meetings. And then I was taught stick with the winners. Well, if I'm going to stick with the winners, how am I going to know who the winners are? I mean, how am I going to know? I'm not supposed to judge anybody. Is this person a winner? Is it that person that's a winner? Gosh, I'm confused. I really don't know. But what I'm clear on today are these priorities. Let's get to them on page 98. It is not the matter of giving that is in question, but when and how to give. That often makes the difference between failure and success. Let's talk about that for just a second. What is what is the action of me giving you a piece of paper? Okay, here's a piece of paper. I'm going to give this to you. You can use the piece of paper as a substitute for money or concern or whatever it is you want to use this for. If I give you this piece of paper in hopes that you're going to like me, if I give you this piece of paper in hopes that you're not going to abandon me, if I give you this piece of paper so that at some point in the very near future, I can hold it up and try to manipulate you or guilt you into doing something for me, that is not giving, that is manipulation. If I give you this piece of paper and expect nothing from you, that is giving. That is charity. That is healthy. So, what is the difference between healthy giving and sick giving? Comes down to one word, and the word is expectation. Do I give to you with an expectation that you now owe me, that you are now in my debt? That's not giving, that's manipulation. Do I give to you and I chop ties, cut ties to anything that you do or don't do? That I've given this to you, the piece of paper, be it money, be it love, be it attention, be it affection, whatever you want to have represented by this piece of paper. If I give it to you and I now have no expectations of you, I do not feel that you owe me, I do not want to throw in your face that I was there for you with a piece of paper, that is altruism. Where do we get altruism from? Where do we get this concept from in our recovery and in our path to a tighter, more beautiful relationship with a higher power? We get it from the Oxford Group. The Oxford Group is where we come from. Some of you don't know that. The Oxford Group were people in New York City. Well, they were all over the world. They were in England. That's why they got the name Oxford Group. But primarily we're talking about New York City. And the reason is because that's where Roland Hazard, Ebby, came to. Bill went to meetings there, and that's where they met the Reverend Sam Shoemaker. The Reverend Sam Shoemaker was part of the Oxford Group, and as such, he taught the boys about altruism, giving with no expectation of return. And we've talked many times in here about the Oxford Group being people not concerned with alcoholism at all, but being concerned about instilling enthusiasm. And I love saying this. Whoa! Enthusiasm. Yikes. Now I'm soaked. I got sparkling water. I'm wearing my best Cub shorts today. So they've now been baptized. So anyway, they're the first members of my family to be baptized. So anyhow, altruism comes from the Oxford Group because not Sam Shoemaker, Frank Buckman went to China on a mission. And he saw missionaries in China that were extremely enthusiastic about Christ. Entheos, two Greek words, entheos from God. Entheos from God. They gave with no expectation of return. And this is where their enthusiasm for their Christianity was born. To do for others with no expectation of return. Let's continue this paragraph. It's very revealing. The minute we put our work on a service plane, the alcoholic commences to rely upon our assistance rather than upon God. For me, I wanted somebody else to take care of me so they could work and I could kiss their butt and tell them how wonderful they are, because telling someone how wonderful they are was easier than going and working my butt off in our industry or in any industry. Do my homework for me and I'll kiss your butt and I'll tell you how fantastic you are, because I don't want to do it myself, particularly if it's math. I don't want to do it because I know I'm going to get it wrong. If I just try, I'll be just fine. I'll be fine. He clamors for this or that, claiming he cannot master alcohol until his material needs are cared for. Give me some money, give me an Aston Martin, I want to be the first baseman of the Cubs. I want to be the quarterback of the Bears. I want to be famous. I want to be great. I want all the girls to want to kiss me. I want all the boys to want to be me. And then maybe I'll do a step or two here and there. It doesn't work like that. What's the next sentence? It's the shortest sentence in the book. Nonsense. In other words, bullshit. In other words, Narishkeit. Narishkeit is Yiddish for foolishness. Life doesn't work that way. We have to do the work in front of us. Some of us have taken very hard knocks to learn this truth. Job or no job, wife or no wife, we simply do not stop drinking so long as we place dependence upon other people ahead of dependence on God. I have a business. I still work. I don't work as hard as I did, 20 years ago, 10, even 10 years ago. I don't. I honestly don't. I get my Social Security and it takes some of the pressure off me, and I don't work as hard. I can't. I'm 71 years old, for God's sakes. But the bottom line is that we cannot place dependence upon other people ahead of dependence on God. Dependence on God means we are doing the things we can do, letting Him do what we cannot do. I don't want to hear you've got a dog and a cat and a lion and an otter and a beaver and a penguin and a camel. So you can't go to meetings or you can't do your step work. I want to hear that. That's nonsense. You get up 15 minutes earlier. You get up 20 minutes earlier. You get up an hour earlier. You go to bed late. You do what you need to do. I hear this all the time. I've got little kids. I've got a wife. I've got a husband. I've got this. I've got that. To be a better spouse, you need to be in recovery. To be a better worker for your job, you need to be in recovery. If I'm not in recovery, what am I bringing to my family? Sickness. What am I bringing to my job? Sickness. What am I bringing to my friends? Sickness. I'm not bringing a healthy person into any of the relationships. What am I bringing to myself? Sickness. But if I'm in recovery and I'm doing the things I need to do, I walked 3 miles yesterday. I was abstinent yesterday. So far, I'm abstinent today. I don't walk on Saturdays normally. I'll walk 3 miles tomorrow. I'm abstinent today. I'm having lunch at Pita Jungle. And then I'll have dinner at home and I'll do whatever I do and whatever. But the bottom line is we do not recover. We simply do not stop drinking so long as we place dependence upon other people ahead of dependence on God. Do you need any more of a warning? Do you need it spelled out? There's this new big book now called the Plain English Big Book, and I'm not knocking it, but do you need any more plain language than listen to this again? Some of us have taken very hard knocks to learn this truth. Job or no job, wife or no wife, we simply do not stop drinking so long as we place dependence upon other people ahead of dependence on God. Does anybody have words that could describe it more plain than that? I doubt it. If Billy Shakespeare himself were here, I don't know how much more plain he could make it. Let's continue. Burn the idea into the consciousness of every man that he can, or woman, that he can get well regardless of anyone. I don't want to hear that your wife doesn't support your recovery. I don't want to hear that your husband doesn't support your recovery. You just keep recovering and leave the rest up to God. The only condition is that he trusts God and clean house. What is clean house? It's 4 through 9. 4 through 9. I keep saying 4 steps and people get on me because they're right. The 4th step is not just a 4th step. It's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's when you clean house. We need priorities in our life. And my first priority is the program God/recovery. Nothing is more important than that. Then comes the Three Stooges. Then comes the wrestlers. Then comes the cartoon characters. Of course, those are important. They're important to everybody. Here's the Three Stooges. I'm wearing one of their t-shirts right now. But the bottom line, and Curly was like a father to me, but the bottom line is, of course, we have family, or you have a business, or you have a job. Nobody is saying don't own those responsibilities. I'm not telling you to turn your back on a child or a grandchild or a friend. Nobody is telling you that. But we have to make God the number one priority. And that might mean that at some point you're going to have to say no to somebody. Oh my God, are they going to like me? Oh my God, are they going to still be my friend? Oh my God, you don't understand how hard that is. Yes, I do. Of course I do. But nothing comes before my relationship with God. Sometimes I even have to say no to service in OA. Sometimes I have to. They're offering me a speaking gig at a Zoom meeting that's in conflict with this, or in conflict with the weekday Scottsdale meetings, or it's in conflict with something else. No is a complete sentence. Sometimes I have to say no. The world does not come to an end. Worshiping God, putting God as a priority, does not mean that I have to say yes to everything that they ask me to do. I can't possibly do that. I can't. I can't do it. Let's continue. Page 98. Now the domestic problem. There may be divorce, separation, or just strained relations. When your prospect has made such reparation as he can to his family and has thoroughly explained to them the new principles. What are the principles? The principles are the steps. It's just another word for the steps. This thing with the principle of this is hope, and the principle of that came out after Bill was already dead and Bob was dead and they were all dead. That's something that came out in the 80s. By which he is living, he should proceed to put those principles into action at home. That is, if he is lucky enough to have a home. Though his family may be at fault in many respects, he should not be concerned about that. He should concentrate on his own spiritual demonstration. In other words, you concentrate, you mow your grass, you shovel your snow, you dust your stoop, you sweep your stoop. You take care of you, God will take care of the rest. God will take care of the rest. Okay. So you don't, when you walk to God, God will be there. He will run to you. Run. You never have to worry about is God doing his part. You never have to worry about, wait a minute, is God aware of this situation? Yes. Is he going to help me? Yes, it just may not be on our timetable. It may not be our conditions. It may not be according to our script. Remember at the very beginning of chapter 5, what did they tell us? They told us that selfishness, self seeking, that we want to write the script, that is the root of our trouble. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, and self-seeking, we step on the toes of others and they retaliate. You don't worry about God. You just keep working your program. You keep swimming to shore. You keep helping others. You stay out of that damn food. You stay out of the food. You do what you need to do to recover. God will be there. You can bet your bippy on it. You can bet your life on it. I have, and I'm doing just fine. Yeah, there's areas of my life that I wish were different. Yes, there's areas of my life I wish were different. No question. But my life is pretty damn good. This is my house. I can spit on the wall if I want to. That's my car parked right outside. 2025 car, very few miles on it, runs like a top. I paid cash for it. I don't have any credit card debt. My credit is fantastic. I'm not a rich man, but I'm not a poor man. I'm not a poor man. I have health insurance. I have dental insurance. My health is good. I went to the doctor the other day. Perfect blood pressure is 120 over 80. My blood pressure is 124 over 80. I used to weigh over 700 pounds. Now, I am on blood pressure medication, but my blood pressure, as it sits on Tuesday morning is 124 over 80. How amazing is that? You don't worry about God. God will be there. His word, he loves you, he'll be there. Bottom of 98. Argument and fault finding are to be avoided like the plague. In many homes, I'm at the top of 99. This is a difficult thing to do. I was married to a woman who loved fighting and arguing and that. Eventually, I had to drop the rope. They taught me in another program, drop the rope. And you ever play tug of war? Well, if I drop the rope, there's nobody to tug with. There's not much to fight about. I just, yeah, you're right, or whatever. Okay, whatever. And I just went about my business. I saw that there was no winning. There was no winning. Top of 99. But it must be done if any results are to be expected. If persisted in for a few months, the effect on a man's family is sure to be great. What's sure to be great? His sobriety and his spiritual life. The most incompatible people discover they have a basis upon which they can meet. Little by little, the family may see their own defects and admit them. These can then be discussed in an atmosphere of helpfulness and friendliness. Now, sometimes that doesn't happen. When my wife said we're getting married, we got married. When my wife said we're getting divorced, we got divorced. Little did I know she had fallen in love with somebody, and then she told me. She said, I have fallen in love, and this is the love I've been waiting for. That was hard to hear. That was in May of 2010. That was hard to hear. That was a bad day. But it happens. Poo-poo happens. What can I tell you? After I'm on 99. After they have seen tangible results, the family will perhaps want to go along. Maybe, and maybe not. These things will come to pass naturally and in good time provided. However, the alcoholic continues to demonstrate that he can be sober, considerate, and helpful regardless of what anyone says or does. So if they don't want your way of life, they don't want to do the steps, they don't want to whatever, that's okay too. Maybe it's not their time and maybe it'll never be their time. We are not the judge and the jury of who should do steps and who should go to meetings and who should go where and who should do what. That is not our job. That's not our job. Regardless of what anyone says or does. Of course, we all fall much below this standard many times, but we must try to repair the damage immediately, lest we pay the penalty by a spree. In other words, don't get so caught up in what other people are doing that you get the efforts and you end up eating Chips Ahoy or Oreos or ice cream or whatever the hell it is you eat. Who does that help? Nobody. Who does it hurt? You. You're going to go eat Chips Ahoy cookies because your husband or your wife won't work the steps? Now that's stupid. But yet you see people like me doing it every day. You see people like me that did it every day of my life. How dumb was that? If there be divorce or separation, there should be no undue haste for the couple to get together. The man should be sure of his recovery. The wife should fully understand his new way of life. Sometimes that's not possible. They're never going to understand. And I understand what he's saying here, but to people who understand this, no explanation is necessary. To those who do not, none is plausible. You would have better luck trying to teach an otter how to play the saxophone. Because sometimes people not only don't get it, they don't want to get it. They're looking at this whole thing of alcoholism or compulsive overeating, and they don't want what you have. They just don't. It's nothing that's important to them. It's a way of life that appeals to us, and we see the miracles, we see the benefits. And to some people, they think it's the most ridiculous thing in their life. I have a friend of mine, he died last year. He lived in Petaluma, California. He thought this was the most ridiculous thing he'd ever heard in his life. What does God have to do with any? He thought this is the most ridiculous thing he's ever seen. He died at about 425 pounds, 450. What can I do? I miss him. I miss him like crazy, but I can't bring him back. I cannot bring him back. Keep going. If their old relationship is to be resumed, it must be on a better basis. Since the former did not work, this means a new attitude and spirit all around. If you're just going to get back together with no improvement in the relationship, eventually you're going to come to the same point where you're having problems. Something has to change. I cannot keep doing what I'm doing and expecting better results. It just doesn't work that way. If I want different, I have to do different. This means a new attitude and spirit all around. Sometimes it is to the best interest of all concerned that a couple remain apart. Sometimes. Obviously, no rule can be laid down. Let the alcoholic continue his program day by day. When the time for living together has come, it will be apparent to both parties. Bottom of 99. Let no alcoholic say he cannot recover unless he has his family back. This just isn't so. It goes back to what we just talked about. Don't make deals with God. You get my family back together, you bring her back to me, you get me her, you get me it, you get me there, and then I'll recover. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. This just isn't so. In some cases, the wife will never come back for one reason or another. Remind the prospect that his recovery is not dependent upon other people. I'm at the top of 100. It is dependent upon his relationship with God. We have seen men get well whose families have not returned at all. My family isn't returned. I'm in recovery. We have seen others slip when the family came back too soon. So don't tell God what to do. Don't play God. Let him decide the timing. He knows better than we do what is appropriate, what is not appropriate. Okay. The next paragraph is the 12-step promises. And the 12-step promises are profound, deep, dear promises. They are fantastic, just fantastic. And before I read them and we talk about them for a few minutes here, let's just remember that in the 9th step promises, it says, we will know a new happiness. It doesn't say we will be happier. We will know a new happiness and we will know freedom. In my life before recovery, I hate to admit this, but my greatest joy in life was the misery of other people. My greatest misery in life was their pleasure, was their joy. I wanted you to suffer just like I'm suffering. I wanted to see you suffer too. And I had a very negative attitude. I've said this a million times. Any similarity between me now and me not in recovery is purely coincidental. Now, when I see you recover, when I see some of you start to sponsor other people, when I see our meeting here grow, and we're down numbers from last week a bit, but when I see our number grow, when I see people saying on Vision or here in Scottsdale, this happened and that happened, and I'm so happy about this and I'm so happy about that, it gives me joy because in a very pure and wonderful way, I love you. And loving you means I'm rooting for you. I'm hoping that you have a good life because I now see so clearly that your happiness in no way, shape, or form detracts from mine. That the world is full of abundant miracles. The world is full of pregnant miracles. The world is full of abundant blessings from God. And that when you have your blessing, it does not in any way detract from me. It is a weak man who considers himself injured when another is praised. Sorry, when another is praised. And if you're being blessed by a grandchild, or you're being blessed in a marriage, or you're being blessed by a child, whatever it is you are being blessed by, that is not an indictment of me. And as reasonably intelligent as I am, and I wasn't aware of it at the time, it took me a few decades to figure out that that is true, that we can all be happy. In God's world, we can all be fulfilled and happy. I didn't know that, but I know it now. Let's read the 12-step promises. They're on page 100. Both you and the new man must walk day by day in the path of spiritual progress. We never arrive. Spirituality is not a destination, it's a journey. Step 2, step 11. These are not destinations, they are journeys. If you persist, and that means if you keep doing the work, remarkable things will happen. Absolutely remarkable. When we look back, we realize that the things which came to us when we put ourselves in God's hands were better than anything we could have planned. Follow the dictates of a higher power, and you will presently live in a new and wonderful world, no matter what your present circumstances. I never really understood that life could be this good. Again, yes, there are things I wish I could change about my life. I do. But I have a good life. And you know what's at the center of my life? I trust and love God, and I like myself, and I respect myself as a person. I don't have to hate myself. I don't have to wake up in the morning with this pall of guilt and fear and shame and doubt and remorse. I can wake up free. I can wake up abstinent, and I have the freedom to not look at myself in the mirror and want to retch at what I see. That's recovery. That when I catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror or in a store window, as I'm walking in the 3 miles that I do walk, I walk right through two shopping centers, and I do see glimpses of myself in the window if I'm looking. Usually I'm not. I don't have to retch at what I see. My clothes fit. I bought this. No, I didn't. This was a gift. I have this because of someone's admiration, and it fits. And my shorts fit. And no matter what clothes I choose to wear in any given situation, if I go back here to where my clothes are, the clothes will fit. My bills are paid. I am abstinent. I am not afraid that you saw me coming out of the donut shop. I am not scared to death that you're going to see me in the grocery store with 3 empty bags of Oreos because I've eaten 3 bags of Oreos while I was walking in the store. I am not scared of what you see me in the store buying, and you look in my cart and I'm ashamed of nothing. I'm ashamed of nothing. There's not a shred of shame in me because I haven't bought anything or eaten anything that I wouldn't want broadcasted on the front page of the Chicago Tribune. I knew a guy, he was a great big guy. He was my sponsor. Then he died. He used to say, if everywhere you went today, everything you ate, everything you said, everything about your life was on the front page of the Chicago Tribune, are you okay with that? Because if you're not okay with it, that means you're in the disease. You are engaging in behaviors that you want kept secret unto you. That's the mark of recovery for me today. If everything I did, everywhere I go, everything that came in and out of my mouth today were broadcasted on the front page of the Chicago Tribune, am I okay with that? So far today, yes. 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 I'm okay with that. So these 12-step promises are amazing, profound promises that you will be a champion of those who are afflicted with this disease, and you will be catapulted into a place of awe and wonderment. And you will know that the things which came to us when we put ourselves in God's hands were better than anything we could have planned. Follow the dictates, not the suggestions. Follow the dictates of a higher power, and you will presently live in a new and wonderful world, no matter what your present circumstances. I have a daughter that hasn't spoken to me in 15 years. My heart has a hole in it. I am not immune from pain because I'm in recovery. Nobody promised me a rose garden. I didn't want to get divorced. I didn't want to break up a family. It wasn't my decision. I want every girl I have a crush on to fall in love with me. It doesn't work that way, let me tell you. But it doesn't work that way for anybody. It doesn't work that way for women either. But I had to learn those lessons. And what I see here is that if I follow the dictates of a higher power, I will presently live in a new and wonderful world, no matter what my present circumstances. There were banks in Chicago that wouldn't have given me 5 singles for a $5 bill, cash. They wouldn't have done it. My credit was so bad. Today, I can buy a car and I don't have to put down the change in my pocket. I can go into a dealership today and say, I don't want this car anymore. I'm sick of it. I want that one. And I can walk out of that dealership and not put down the change in my pocket. I have 0 credit card interest that I pay a year. I get a bill, I pay it, we're done. Nice knowing you. Goodbye. We'll see you next month. I don't pay interest because I pay my bill. I'm not behind on anything. I don't have to live with my heart in my mouth when I go to the post office box. There's no final notices in there. There's no accusatory letters that say you didn't pay your bill. We're going to shut off your water. We're going to shut off your electricity. We're going to shut off your phone. That's not part of my life. And I thank God for that every day. I can't get there on my own. I need God's help. What a wonderful world it is to live holding God's hand. Middle of 100. When working with a man and his family, I don't normally work with the family. You should take care not to participate in their quarrels. You may spoil your chance of being helpful if you do, but urge upon a man's family that he has been a very sick person and should be treated accordingly. You should warn against arousing resentment or jealousy. You should point out that his defects of character are not going to disappear overnight. Show them that he has entered upon a period of growth. Ask them to remember when they are impatient the blessed fact of his sobriety. There is a fact that I am abstinent that outweighs a lot, everything else. I'm in recovery today. Last Sunday night before I got so sick, I went to a gathering of guys and their wives and girlfriends from my high school. I am far from the most overweight person there. I used to outweigh these guys by hundreds and hundreds of pounds. Now, some of them are very wealthy and they're very successful, and I was not monetarily or professionally that successful. But I have a good life. I have a purpose to my life. I have a rhythm in my life that says, this is why I put you on earth. They don't have that. Now, they're wonderful people. I love them. I would die for them. But the truth of the matter is that many of them are much larger than I am. They can't walk 3 miles. They're lucky if they can walk 3 blocks. Let's continue. I'm on page 100. If you have been successful in solving your own domestic problems, tell the newcomer's family how that was accomplished. In this way, you can set them on the right track without being critical of them. The story of how you and your wife settled your difficulties is worth any amount of criticism. So if you've settled your differences with your spouse and people are going through it, tell them. But we are not marriage counselors. Don't try to play one because we are not marriage counselors. Assuming we are spiritually fit, does that go back to page 85 if you are in fit spiritual condition? We can do all sorts of things alcoholics are not supposed to do. People have said we must not go where liquor is served. We must not have it in our home, top of 101. We must shun friends who drink. We must avoid moving pictures which show drinking scenes. We must not go into bars. Our friends must hide their bottles if we go to their houses. We mustn't think or be reminded about alcohol at all. Our experience shows that this is not necessarily so. We meet these conditions every day. An alcoholic who cannot meet them still has an alcoholic mind. There is something the matter with his spiritual status. His only chance for sobriety would be someplace like the Greenland ice cap, and even there an Eskimo might turn up with a bottle of scotch and ruin everything. Ask any woman who has sent her husband to distant places on the theory he would escape the alcohol problem. In our belief, any scheme of combating alcoholism which proposes to shield the sick man from temptation is doomed to failure. There are meetings, oh, you can't mention food. And so somebody will get up there and they'll say, hi, I'm Joe. Hi, I'm Mary, and blah, blah, blah. And I ate those frozen things why don't you just say ice cream for the love of God? We know what you're talking about. Oh, I used to eat, the things, blah, blah, that come with a hamburger. We know you're talking about French fries. What, I mean, if I say French fries and you go out and eat French fries, guess what? You were gonna anyway. Who are we bullshitting here? They meant it's in the big book. Gin is in the big book. Beer is in the big book. Ale is in the big book. Whiskey is in the big book. It's all right here. Highball. It's all right here in the book. But oh no, some meetings, somebody will faint if you mention food in a meeting. You don't have internet, you don't have a car, you don't have a radio, you don't have a TV, you've never seen a McDonald's commercial? If every time you see a McDonald's commercial, you go out and eat McDonald's, they're going to be very happy with you, but you're going to be very sad. You're going to be very sad. But let's cut the crap. Let's cut the crap. If I say Oreos because I was in the store or Almond Joy, you know what they are. How do you think you got here? By breathing in fat air? How do you think you got here? By drinking fat water? You know exactly what foods are out there. exactly what foods are out there. Let's cut the crap. If the alcoholic tries to shield himself, he may succeed for a time, but he usually winds up with a bigger explosion than ever. We have tried these methods, these attempts to do the impossible. So our rule is not to avoid a place where there is drinking if we have a legitimate reason for being there. I'm going to a Passover dinner on Wednesday, and these are people that I love dearly. They're going to be serving a lot of food that is not on my food plan, and they don't eat dinner until 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. That doesn't work for me. I'm going to eat my dinner before I go there, and I will not partake in their uh, offerings. They know it. I know it, and it's all okay. It's all good. Everybody's good. But these are people, when they had a bar mitzvah for their kid, we ate dinner at almost 10 o'clock at night. This is who they are, and that's okay. I beat the system. I had eaten dinner hours before that on my own. So they didn't serve me any food, and that was understood. That was understood. That includes bars, nightclubs, dances, receptions, wedding. They even played ordinary whoopee parties. I don't think I've ever been to a whoopee party. Maybe one day when we go to the birthday, when we go to Vision in Newark, somebody will have a whoopee party. I don't know what a whoopee party is, but I'd like to go to one before I die. To a person who has had experience with an alcoholic, it may seem like tempting providence, but it isn't. All right. Before I turn it back over to you guys, I hope today was good. I hope today was helpful in some way. And I hope that it cleared up what is healthy giving, what is unhealthy giving. It's very important that we have an understanding of that. And, the biggest word that separates healthy from unhealthy is expectations. And that is the biggest thing. Next Saturday is April 4th, and that's the day they made my dad's birthday when he came to this country, because that was the day he landed in Baltimore. And he landed in this country on April the 4th, 1914. So my family has been in this country now for 112 years as of next Saturday. My dad would be 120 something, 122. He was born in 1900. So he'd be 126 if he was alive today. He was 54 when I was born. So he was more like a grandpa in a lot of ways than a dad. Okay, let's turn it back over to Carol, or we're going to turn it over to